Hello and welcome to Power Query Essentials. My name is Philip Hankey. I'm the founder of AnalyzeFinance.com, and this is your introduction to automation through Power Query. Now, if you've never used Power Query before, I'm first of all going to walk you through how to use it, and then I'm going to walk you through an example where we're going to automate our financial reporting. So, very excited for those examples. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So first of all, welcome. This session is part one of an ongoing series of webinars designed to help you become a better financial professional. Now at AnalyzeFinance.com, we offer Excel and Power BI webinars every 4 to 6 weeks. They're always free of charge and they're always relevant to today's finance world. Now, if you're not already on our email list, be sure to sign up for that using the link below in the show notes. It's right next to the bell icon. And we've got a Power BI Basics webinar coming up here soon. I'm really excited to show that one to you as well. So if you're not already, make sure to get on our email list and we'll include you on that one as well. Also, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of great Excel, Power BI, and finance content planned this year. We want you to be a part of it. Please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot. Here's what we're going to cover here today. So first of all, what is Power Query? You know, what's all the fuss with this product, or with this feature, I should say? You've probably heard a lot of talk about it. What is it and how do we use it? Second of all, how to use Power Query for data analysis. So I've got a very simple example for you. It's just kind of going to break you into Power Query, show you how to use it. I think you're really going to like that one. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use Power Query to automate financial reporting. Now, my guess is that if you work in finance or accounting, that's probably why you're here today. This example is going to be awesome. I've never seen it taught anywhere else. I really mean that, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Finally, I'm going to show you how to build a pivot table P&L that doesn't look like a pivot table. So to follow along with the exercises here, you're going to want to download and unzip the folder. It's in the show notes below. It says check your email here. That's if you registered for this webinar through our email funnel. So go ahead and click on those show notes below, download, unzip it, and that way you can follow along. Okay. Here's a brief introduction to me. There's my face in the top left corner there. We'll keep this real short and sweet. So I'm the founder of AnalyzeFinance.com. In 2022, I founded this website because I realized that there was a lot of Excel instruction out there, but not a lot of it was geared towards finance professionals. And if it was pretty outdated. So they would use things like projections from 2014, 2015. A lot of that stuff is still out there. So my goal is to provide the most modern Excel and Power BI education for you as a finance and accounting professional. We do that through our free newsletter, our free webinars, and our online courses. Again, check the show notes below if you want to check that out. So if you're interested, here's my background. If not, let's go ahead and get into the exercise here. Here's a sneak peek as to what we're going to be covering here today. So we have 3 bank statements. You'll find these in the download folder. And this is what they look like. We're going to be working with a sandwich shop. And the reason I chose a sandwich shop is because it's a very simple business. There's not any receivables or payables or anything like that. And we can track all of our activity on our bank statements. I actually do this myself. It's very helpful. I used to spend hours on this every month. I now spend a matter of minutes on it. Here's what it's going to look like when we're all done. So this is a pivot table. Doesn't really look like a pivot table, but it's going to, this is what we're going to be building today. So first of all, what is Power Query? So Power Query is a built-in Excel feature, facilitates data management. It has 3 goals. Its goals are to extract, transform, and load data. So extract, we can extract data from tables, the web, or outside sources. If you see say a table that you like on the internet, you can use Power Query to bring that in. Next step is to transform data from its raw form to a more usable one. This is kind of just a fancy way of saying cleaning data. It's very easy in Power Query, and we'll show you that here in just a moment. And finally, load data into an analysis software like Excel or Power BI. Again, it's very easy to use, much easier to use than data cleaning formulas. It also automates the data preparation process by saving the applied steps for later use. This is a key reason why Power Query is so helpful, and it's a key reason for why it's so useful in automation. Okay, so where is Power Query? Now, if you're running Excel 2016 or more recent, you're going to find it in the Data tab, and you're going to find it under these parts off to the left side that say Get and Transform Data, and queries and connections. So that's where the Power Query functions live. So that's where you'll be using it. Let's talk a little bit about data cleaning. So the old way of data cleaning is manual. It typically involves complex formulas or macros. It's prone to error and it's time consuming. The new way, which is what we're going to show you here today, is automated, at least after you write the initial script through Power Query. It's also very easy. You can boil it down to just a few clips. It's less prone to error. And once again, it's very fast. So, and when I say fast, what I mean is that you can simply drag a document to a folder and Power Query is going to handle the rest for you. I'm very excited to show you that example here in just a moment. Okay, so to summarize, the benefits of Power Query are to save time, it's easy to use, reduce errors, reduce manual processes, and you're going to spend less time cleaning data and more time analyzing it. Isn't that what we all want? More time analyzing data. Okay, so I want to introduce you to my new class. I'm super excited to announce this. It's called Excel Essentials for Finance. This class is perfect for anybody who works in the finance industry if you're looking to take your career to the next level. So if you're a junior analyst and you want to become a senior analyst and you want to become a director, this is going to be the perfect class for you. Now, even in 2024, Excel is the #1 most requested skill by employers, and therefore it's more important than ever to bring your skills up to date. We cover Power Query in this class. We're going to cover financial functions, data analysis, building dashboards, and much more. I'm also going to be adding some ChatGPT and Copilot lessons to this class in the coming weeks. Maybe by the time you're watching this video, those are already in the class. Be sure to check it out. I'm going to link it in the show notes below. If you're watching this webinar within 7 days of us recording it, use the coupon FAST25 at checkout to get 25% off. Okay? All right, so here's what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to be doing a simple data cleaning exercise. This will probably take us about 5 minutes. In the Library Data tab, we're also going to be using Power Query to automate financial reporting. If you're in finance and accounting, you're definitely going to want to stick around for that one. We're going to be working with, again, a sandwich shop, and there's going to be 3 PDF bank statements, January through March, and let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so making sure that you've downloaded the file. It's going to be right here. It's going to be called Power Query Webinar. Maybe it's different on your system, but we're going to want to unzip this folder. So right click it here. Make sure to click Extract All. Very important that you do that. And then off to this button will pop up, or this screen will pop up. Go ahead and click Extract, and that'll unzip that folder for you. Okay, so here we go, the PQ Webinar 118. Let's go ahead and click on Power Query Essentials, the Excel Workbook. All right, so here we are. Now, once again, if you want to check out the class, once this is all said and done, just simply click here on the button. This will take you to a sales page. In the class, you're going to learn how to work faster and smarter in Excel, some modern data analysis techniques, how the top financial analysts use Excel, and so on and so on. You can read it here. Check this out at the end if you're interested. Okay, let's get right into it. So what we're looking at here on the Library Survey tab is a list of information about public libraries in the state of Arizona where I live. Okay, what we have here is the name of the library. We have the address, city, mailing address, phone number, and so on. So personally, I don't really like the way that this is formatted. I don't like all the capital letters. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to very quickly and easily clean this up. Now, I also noticed that the phone number off to the right side here, some of these are in a different format. Keep that in mind here for just a moment. Now, to give you a basis of comparison, let's go ahead and clean the data the way that we would in standard Excel, okay? So let's right-click on column D, let's insert a new column, and let's call this 1.31 library name, okay? The way that you would do this in standard Excel is through the proper function, okay? So proper C2, close it out, hit enter, okay? So that already looks better. We then drag it down, and there we go. Now, if we wanted to retain these values, we have to copy them. We have to paste the values. I'm using keyboard shortcuts here. Come back up to the top here, right-click, delete. That's just column C. I mean, could you imagine if we had to do that for this entire workbook? So column D, column E, column H. Let's go ahead and undo these actions here so we get rid of this. There's got to be an easier way. Okay, so let's go ahead, click anywhere in this sheet, click data, and there's two ways to access this information through Power Query. First of all, you can click this button that says from table or range. What that's going to do is it's going to populate the data from this tab into Power Query. You can also click get data, and from other sources, from table or range. I'll go ahead and select that for now. So it's asking us to create a table, which is what we want to do. Where's the data in your table? That's in this sheet right here. My table does have headers, so keep that selected and click OK. All right, so we are in the Power Query editor here. Now, what this screen is doing is it's displaying the information exactly as it's displayed in the source document. So as we just saw it, right? So everything's capitalized, here's the phone numbers. They're all formatted differently. Well, not all of them, but some of them are. These 928 ones are. This 480 one is at the top. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to clean that up. Off to the right side here, you're going to see the query settings pane. Okay. So properties, we can give the table a name. Right now, the default name is table 1 because we haven't given it a name. We also have these two applied steps. What is this? So these are steps that Power Query or Excel is automatically taking for us. It's always going to begin with source. And let's take a look and see what's going on here. So in this formula bar, we have something called M code. It's like M for Microsoft, okay? So what this tells us is that it's pulling it from the current Excel workbook under a generic table name that we haven't named yet, so hence why it's table 1. And it's pulling all the content from that table. That's what this M code is telling us, okay? So at the top here, notice I'm hovering my mouse over this thing that says ABC123. And if I click into this, what this shows us is all the different data labels or all the different types of data types that we could select here. So ABC123 is a very non-specific type of data. Let's click out of it and let's click on this button that says change type, okay? Notice that these change. So we have ABC. This is a text value, and that's correct, okay? So if we scroll over to the right here, we notice that we have a zip code, which is coded as 123, a whole number. You could argue that a zip code is actually text. I couldn't say, like take 85326 and add 1 to it. Like that doesn't make any sense. So you could argue that this is a text value. However, most of the time Power Query will get it right. I would say probably, 85, 90% of the time, maybe even more than that, it'll get it right. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we are going to come over to the left side here and we are going to put this data in the correct tense, okay? So let's click on this, column right here, 1.3 library name. Okay, let's click these ones as well. Let's click this. And by the way, I'm holding control as I do this. And let's click on city, county, okay. And let's click on director name. And let's click survey contact, okay? So we got all these columns selected here. And what I want to do is I want to put this into a proper tense. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to click this button. This is transform, click format, and we're going to capitalize each word. That is the Power Query way to go about putting it in the proper tense. So if I scroll over to the left here, we see that everything is in the proper tense. That looks really good, doesn't it? Okay. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to come over here into columns 1.12 and 1.13. So to select 1.13, press and hold Control and select it. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the NA values so that if there's, say, an extension like 229, it'll retain that value. But if it's an NA value, that it won't do that. Okay. And we'll do the same for the website as well. So once again, select these values. We're going to come over to Home. We're going to replace values. Okay. So think of this kind of like Control H. And we're going to find NA. And we're going to replace it with nothing. So just leave this blank. And there we go. So instead of NA, now we have a blank cell. That looks much better in my opinion. Okay. Let's go ahead and clean this up as well. So what we want to do is with columns 1.13 and 1.15, we want to put this in a lowercase format. So let's go ahead and click transform, We're going to format this as lowercase. Okay, so these aren't capitalized anymore. And let's go ahead and come off to the left here. Okay, just a couple more things that we want to do. In column 1.2, I notice that we have AE in front of all the names here. So we have AE, AJ, we have AE, Call River, AE, Cotton, and so on and so on. I don't want that AE there. I just want it to say, say AE, or excuse me, just auction. Okay, there's a couple ways that you can do that. You can actually use the replace, or excuse me, you would use extract. Okay, so it would be text after a delimiter. Okay, so we could type AE hyphen. You can go ahead and click OK if you want to. I'm going to show you another way to do it, just to show you that there are a lot of different ways you can do things in Power Query. Let's come back into transform. Let's click on the column. Now let's click split column by a delimiter. Okay, make sure custom delimiter hyphen is exactly what we want, because we want the hyphen is the separator between AE and the library name. You can leave this as each occurrence of the delimiter if you want and click OK. Okay, it's now split these into two columns. Okay, let's go ahead and right click here. Let's remove it. Let's come back up to the top. Let's delete this. So double click on the name. Go ahead and change the name to 1.2 library ID. Let's format this by capitalizing each word. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, and then the last thing that we want to do is put all these phone numbers off to the right side here in the same format. Okay, so let's select column 1.11. What we're going to do is we're going to come over to home. We're going to replace the values. Now what we want to do is we want to remove the leading parentheses with nothing, basically. Click OK. Okay, notice how these steps are being recorded off to the right side here. This is going to be very critical in the second example. Let's click replace values again. Let's go ahead and find the close parentheses and a space. Okay, so close parentheses space, replace it with nothing, click OK. And there's just one more thing that we got to do. We got to get that hyphen out of there too. So let's go ahead and replace the value. Whoops, okay, click cancel, select the column, replace the values, hyphen, replace with nothing. Okay, there we go, boom. It's looking pretty good, right? All right, so we've got our script here. Let's go ahead and load this to our Excel workbook, okay? Before we do that, let's give it a name. Okay, table 1 isn't really all that helpful, so let's say clean library, okay? Hit enter. Close and load, hit this drop down arrow here. Close and load to. Okay, new worksheet, table, everything looks good, hit OK. All right, so here's our table right here. It's looking much better than our source document. Let's go ahead and remove the table formatting. You can retain the table, but just simply remove the formatting by scrolling to the top and clicking this button, none. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and apply just a color to the top here. You don't have to, but I prefer to see it that way. Okay, sounds good. So here we go. Let's notice that we have the Clean Library tab. Here's Library Survey. This is our source data, okay? Oh, man, that's pretty rough. But if we come back over to the Clean Library, just as advertised, it's very clean. Love it. Okay, so that's all I have for you with the library survey example. Let's go ahead and get into exercise 2 here. All right, so once again, we're working in the exercise 2 tab of our file here. And before we get into the second exercise, let's pull up the folder again just to kind of see what we're working with. Okay, so we're in the PQ webinar folder, and let's click on this folder that says bank statements. Okay, and we're going to click on the Shells Cargo. I'm sure you know which bank that is. Statement dated January 2024. Okay, and so what this is, it's a fictitious business. It's called Sandwich Masterpiece LLC. This is based in Muskegon, Michigan. And once again, this is the statement period January 1st through January 31st. We have an activity summary table, and then we have a list of transactions. So this is all the activity that occurred in this bank account for the month of January. This actually kind of looks like a real bank statement, right? So let's go ahead and pull up the second one as well. Okay, so here's the Shells Cargo statement. February 2024. Okay, once again, this is in that folder. And here we go again. So same thing, just February 1st through February 29th, okay? So we have the list of activity that happened in this bank account. And what we want to do is we want to extract this information so that we can analyze it. And we're going to populate it into an Excel pivot table. So I personally had never seen this done until recently. And I'm really excited to show this to you here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on data, okay? And this time we're going to click on the Get Data dropdown. We're going to click From File, From Folder. Okay. Let's go ahead and populate that Downloads folder. Okay. So we have the PQ webinar, bank statements. Okay. So make sure that yours looks like mine. It might be a little bit different, but make sure that bank statements is the folder that you're populating here, and click Open. Okay. So what we're looking at here is a list of documents that Power Query has found in this folder. It finds 2 of them in there. That's exactly what we want. Click on this button that says Transform Data. Don't ever click on Combine or Load to get started. Click Transform Data. Okay, and as the Power Query editor comes up here, this is going to look this looks much different than what we saw with the Clean Library query originally. So what we have here is a list of documents in the folder. We see that they're PDF files. If there were Excel documents or Access or SQL, that would be listed in there as well. Okay, so here's the folder path and so forth. Now the only thing that we need in this set of records is actually this content column right here. So let's right click on this. Let's remove the other columns. Now to get at this information that's in this folder, what we're going to do is we're going to add a column. It's going to be a custom column. Okay, and we're going to write a code that will help us dig into this workbook, into this folder, excuse me. So the custom column formula is pdf.tables. You're going to open the parentheses, double-click content, close the parentheses, and then you're going to hit enter. And what this is going to do is it's going to populate all the information in that folder into the Power Query editor here. So I hit OK. Now what we need to do is we need to right click on content and let's remove it. Okay. Next step is to click on this double arrow button here. Okay. Uncheck use original column name as prefix. Okay. Oh no. What's going on here? Okay. So this was pretty disheartening for me the first time I saw it. But let's go ahead and just see what's going on here. So if you click on this button, this says table. What we have here is it looks like the entire statement itself. That's not really what we want. Let's click on the table here. So table 001, that's definitely not what we want. Table 2, okay. This looks a little better, but it doesn't start with, it doesn't start with the January 1st. That's probably not what we want either. Let's go ahead and click on table 002. Nice. Okay, so this is what we're looking for here. So what I'm doing is I'm just dragging my mouse to the bottom here and scrolling through these transactions. This looks like something that we need to go ahead and analyze those transactions. So let's keep table 002 in mind. Okay, let's check out table 003. Okay, it picks up where table 2 left off. Looks like table 2 and table 3 are what we want. Let's come down here, verify that to be the case. Okay, it starts with February 1st, and if we scroll down, okay, it goes all the way to the 8th. And it looks like, whoops, okay, page 3, that's not what we want. Questions about your statement. Not sure how we'd analyze that. Okay, so table 3. So once again, tables 2 and tables 3 are what we need. So what's the commonality between table 2 and table 3 other than, the table wording here? The commonality is that these are tables. So what we want to do is we want to filter out all the data types that aren't tables. So let's click on this down arrow. Let's deselect select all, click table. Okay. All right. That leaves us with tables 1, 2, and 3. Now remember, table 1 is the beginning balance and ending balance table. That's not what we want. So let's click on this down arrow here. You may be tempted to simply deselect table 1. The reason I'm not going to do that is because in the future, what may happen is we may have a table 4, okay? And we don't want to filter that out. So let's hover our mouse over text filters. Does not begin with table 001. Okay, so this is going to exclude table 1 from this analysis and from any future analysis. So click OK. All right, so we're left with tables 2 and 3. Right click on the data column. Let's remove other columns again. Click on this left right arrow. Make sure use original column name as prefix is unchecked. Click OK. All right, so this is looking great. So if we scroll down here, we have all the transactions from our PDF files. That's pretty amazing. So what we want to do is we want to clean this up so we can analyze it. So let's get right into that. So what we're going to do first and foremost is we're going to promote column 1 to the header. Notice how it says column 1, column 2, and column 3 here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this button that says use first row as headers. Notice how the headers are now promoted at the top here. Okay. So and you see that change type step off to the left side, off to the right side. So the next step is to change the data types. But before we do that, I noticed that we have a date category here. And this is going to come through with every single bank account that we use in the future. So we're going to want to get that out of there. Let's go ahead and click this drop down arrow. Let's scroll all the way to the bottom. We see date and click OK. All right, so that goes ahead and gets rid of it. You see the filtered rows step off to the right side here. Okay, now before we do any type of categorization of these expenses and revenues, we're going to want to go ahead and change the data types here. So click ABC. This is a date. It's not a date and time. It's just a date. Okay, the description is okay. This is a text description. The amount is definitely not okay. So let's click ABC, and we're going to click currency, and there we go. So this is already looking much better. Now for the next part of this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these accounts here and we're going to categorize them in a general sense, and then we're going to get more granular with it. Now the way to do that is to add a column. We're going to add a conditional column, and you'll see what I'm doing here in just a moment. Let's name this column type, okay? And what we want to do is we want to set up some rules so that we have a new column here after amount, and it reads as a general classification. So here's what I mean by that. So if the amount is greater than 0, this is going to be revenues, okay? Now, if I move this table, we see that we have a cash deposit to Shell's Cargo here on January 2nd. We also have a Visa Merchant Services deposit. These are both greater than 0. Any of the expenses are less than 0. So if the amount is greater than 0, we're going to track this as revenue, okay? Now we're going to add a clause, and we're going to say if the description contains the word Pepsi, and this has to be case sensitive, then this should be cost of goods sold, COGS, okay? We're going to add another clause. If the description contains the word napkins, this is also cost of goods sold, okay? If the description contains the word Cisco, this is cost of goods sold, okay? Cisco is a large food supplier in the United States. If the description contains the word bread, I'm going to track this as cost of goods sold. Now, I just want to stop and use this bread example here real quick. So when Power Query detects the word bread, as it does in Michigan Bread Crafters, it's going to categorize that as cost of goods sold. So we're going to come back to this, but let's go ahead and click OK. And there we go. So notice that we have Cisco classified as cost of goods sold. We have a cash deposit to Shell's Cargo, which is revenue. Visa Merchant Services deposit, also revenue. Everything's looking good so far. Let's come back over into this step. So click on this cog under added conditional column. And we're going to go ahead and continue to classify the remainder of the expenses here. So we're going to have if the description contains the word ADP, okay? This is operating expenses. By the way, ADP is a payroll processor over here in the United States. Let's copy the word operating expenses so we don't have to type that out every time, because we have more classifications. So if the description contains the word Google, I'm going to categorize this as an operating expense. Okay, if the description contains janitor, this is an operating expense. Description contains the word public power. Okay, that's in all caps, remember. That's an operating expense. That's a utility bill. Okay, if the description contains the word Verizon, it's an operating expense. And if the description contains the word landlord in all caps, it's an operating expense. Now, if for instance, an expense, and this is the case in this worksheet, if an expense does not fall under the classifications above, okay, under any of these classifications, we're going to classify it as null, okay? We will come back to that in a second, but hit OK. I want to show you this to you, okay? All right. So we have Muskegon Janitorial. This is an operating expense, okay? So it picked up the word janitor. Once again, we're picking up the word ADP, classifying it as an operating expense. We also have a few other null values here. Now, one thing that I noticed, and I did this intentionally, is that we have a transfer to Space Bank. That's another play on words. Now, a transfer to Space Bank is not an expense, but it's a distribution to say a savings account. So because it's being tracked as an expense, or it would be tracked as an expense here in just a moment, what we're going to do is we're going to get that out of there. Okay. So click this down arrow, come down to the bottom, click Transfer to Space Bank, uncheck it, and click OK. Okay. So that's removed. Now we still have some null values here. So we have a Microsoft bill, we have a Squarespace domains. Now I don't necessarily want to classify a Squarespace domain every month. I don't want to classify Muskegon t-shirt printers. These are one-off expenses. So let's go ahead and click, let's go ahead and click on the cog under added conditional column. Okay. And if it's doesn't fall under any of these categories, we're going to say operating expenses as well. Okay, there we go. All right, now if we click on filtered rows, we see that the Space Bank step goes away. We are ready for the next step. So let's go ahead and classify this as a text value. Okay, once again, very important that you do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to classify this in a more granular sense. Okay, so let's add another conditional column. We're going to call this one classification. Okay, so if the description contains the word cash deposit, this is a cash sales. Okay, so if the description contains the word Visa credit sales, okay, there's our two revenues. If the description contains the word Pepsi in all caps, this is soda and chips. If the description contains the word napkins, these are napkins, okay? I'm going to go ahead and classify the rest of these. So contains Cisco, these are food supplies, okay? And if the description contains the word bread, it's bread, okay? Let's go ahead and hit OK. I know that there's still some things to be classified, but hit OK. Great. Okay, so once again, it's picking up Michigan Bread Crafters as bread. It's picking up Cisco Food Distribution as food supplies, and so on. So let's come back into this conditional column, hit the cog, and let's finish this out. So we have a description that contains the word ADP. This is salaries and wages. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause here for a moment so that you can take a look and see what I've done, and you can classify these for yourself. Okay. Now, for anything else that isn't contained above, we want this to be other operating expenses. Okay. So once again, if it isn't categorized above, we want it to say other operating expenses. Okay. Just give you a moment here, and we'll click OK. All right, great. So let's go ahead and scroll down, admire what we've done here. All right. So looks like everything is being classified. Awesome. Love it. Okay, let's hit this button. This is ABC123. Classify this as a text value once again. And now we're going to go ahead and see how this looks in Excel. So let's go ahead and click Home. Bank statements is an appropriate name. We'll keep it there. And let's close and load to. Let's go new worksheet table. Okay. So here's our table here. Now what we want to do is we want to classify this in a pivot table. So before we do that, let's just take a look. It looks like everything is being classified here. We have all the data from January through February 29th. Great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click anywhere in the table here. We're going to click Table Design, Summarize with Pivot Table. Okay. Table range bank statements. Hit OK. Great. All right. So we're in our pivot table here. Let's click and drag Type to Rows. Let's drag classification down to rows as well. Okay, and we're going to drag amount to values. Okay, so this is starting to take shape here. Let's go into design. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to click report layout. We want to show this in compact form. So it takes away some of that extra space. Great. Let's click on subtotals. Show all subtotals at the bottom of the group. Right now they're at the top. Okay, so that's already looking better. Now what we want to do is click on Pivot Table Analyze. I want to get rid of these drop-down plus and minus buttons. So click plus and minus buttons. Let's click Field Headers. And the last thing that I want to do is click Design, click Blank Rows, and we're going to insert a blank line after each item. Okay, so this is looking better. Let's rename this Year-to-Date Sales. Let's go ahead and rename this net income, and we're going to drag revenues up to the top here. Okay, so make sure that four-way arrow is pointing. Make sure you have the four-way arrow there. Drag this up to the top. Okay, so there we go. That's the format we need it to be in. Okay, let's right-click here. Let's format. Let's format the numbers. Number format, excuse me. Let's do currency. Let's click this one right here. Let's keep it in 2 decimal places. Why not? Okay, there we go. All right, so we have our pivot table P&L. Now, if you want to, I like to do this. I like to keep the big expenses at the top. So click and drag this up to the top. There we go. Okay, credit sales is the larger of the two. So let's go ahead and drag that up to the top as well. And you can play around with that if you want to. I'm going to right justify this. Okay, so here is where the magic truly happens. Let's go over to the bank statements tab. Okay, so we're not quite done. We have all the information all the way to the end of February. Okay, let's come back into our folder. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back out to the PQ webinar, and we're going to click and drag the Shell's cargo statement into our bank statements folder. Okay, so now it's in there, right? All right, so this is really the moment of truth here, guys. Let's hope this works. I'm sure it will. Go ahead and click on the data ribbon, click refresh all. Now notice that we have 106 rows loaded, and when I hit refresh all, I now have 157 rows loaded. Okay, let's scroll down and see what happened. All right, so I have all the activity for the month of March right here. Awesome. I didn't even have to do anything. It's completely automated. It's incredible. Okay, let's click over back into our pivot table under sheet 1. Okay, so it hasn't updated yet. Let's click in our pivot table, click refresh all. There we go. That's absolutely amazing. So I really hope that you guys have learned something new here today. If you want to take a deeper dive into Power Query and just Excel for finance in general, you're going to want to click on this button that says click here to learn more. This will take you to a sales page where you can learn more about our class, Excel Essentials for Finance. Again, if you're watching this within 7 days of when we recorded it, use FAST25 at checkout for 25% off. You can reach out to me at phil@analyzefinance.com. Once again, please subscribe to our channel. Please subscribe to our emails and newsletter. All the links are in the show notes below. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.